Nerds, I have Colin Hardin here, who is running for mayor of Louisville. Welcome to the show and hello, nerds, Colin.
Hello, nerds. How we doing?
So, Colin, tell me a little bit about yourself, man. Who were you before you decided to run for mayor?
I was just a bartender, like server, worked at a restaurant. I had nice little fun time stuff too. I always liked working at a restaurant. It was like it was. I'm not. I have ADHD, so I'm not able to do like the same mundane, repetitive tasks over and over. So a restaurant's like atmosphere. It's like a lot. Like my buddy said to me years ago. He said, "Working at restaurants is not a job; it's a lifestyle." I mean, he's right, and I always enjoyed it. And then pandemic happened, and it kind of just flipped my world along with a lot of other people upside down.
And so, you mentioned you have ADHD, and I could see how that environment is probably works for you because there's a lot going on, and you can
Yeah,
you move around a bit.
I can only focus in chaos. Like a lot of people need silence and like
Mm-hmm.
quiet to focus. Oh my, you should drive me crazy. Like the only way I can describe it is that silence is loud. If that makes any
Mm.
sense.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, I could see that. So then how did you go from, working in a restaurant and doing your thing to deciding to run for mayor? That's kind of a big deal.
So working there, I met my campaign manager and my good friend Zachary Baker. He graduated summa cum laude from Louisville. And he's written a paper on UBI. He's been into politics, and I've always like been very opinionated. Like I love debating, and
Mhm.
actually I love the argument. I think it's like a way to practice better ideologies, if you will. And he had brought it to me. He was like, "Would you ever run for office?" And I was like, why not, right? And then honestly, as like things really, this was prior to the pandemic. And then as the pandemic happened, and everything just went to shit. Uh, I realized Donald Trump was one that reminded me that like, hey, dude, any one of us can be a politician. I was like, so once everything the dust had settled, so to say, um, Zach was like, there was a couple different races coming up, and one of them was state representative, but that's my uncle's. He was a state representative, so I might rank as him. Um, and the merit range came up, and I was like, I could fix it. We passed $1 billion budget last year in the city, and I'm like, $1 billion I could fix little, but no problem, no issue whatsoever. And we were like, let's do it. And it was me and him, and we embarked on this campaign run.
What has that been like running for mayor? I mean, because you got to keep your job as well, right? Are you doing it full time or?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing. I still serve and work at a restaurant, and it's been particularly hard for me, the people I represent, uh, the working class, to ask people to donate to a campaign when they're trying to, inflation's up as high as it is, and they're just trying to put food on the table. So we've had a few. We haven't had the financial extravagance that let's say some of the other candidates have had. So we relied more on just policy, and in my mind, one of the things that used to bother me so much was like when you see any of them like state representatives to executive officials, they go up there and they make their statements and they read them off of like a paper, and I'm like, that's just it's inauthentic. Like, how do I even know those are your words? Like, people can write all kinds of great things. Like, I was determined that you have to change the idea of what politics are, because we don't really have like democracy. We have a theater, and we have two sides of an elite, uh, you know, corporatocracy that have this bizarre form of like corporate socialism, and we're just left behind. So it's like and we know it. That's the crazy thing. We know it. Like, and I myself just think that we anything we could do about it. And after like you know, there is this campaign's actually shown me a lot. Like, there's a lot of gatekeepers, but none of them are impassable. They're all more annoyances than anything else. I think enough annoyances would deter the regular person, or being faced with other people who have like millions of dollars in campaign funds. They like intimidate people, but that that shouldn't deter people like me from running and taking back this country, because it's going to take somebody that is from the working class, because it's been an all-out war on us for the last 30 years.
What do voters say when you reach out and you let them know that you're running for mayor? Like, how do they what How's the reaction been?
So the action has been it's been super positive. I've been really happy about it. Honestly, I've gotten two different Republicans that are running the Republican primary to endorsement. They was like, "Hey, vote for this guy." One of them said it on a forum. I was like, "That's my partisanship right there." So I mean, from the working class, from all walks, people have been excited. Everybody has liked the fact that I've refused to like write anything up and just speak off the top of my head. It doesn't come off as polished as some of my opponents, but it's just they're all playing a model of what a politician should be. It's a performance to all of them on some level. And honestly, the performance has got to go. They keep one of the things I've been part of is that people keep talking about like we need a leader, we need a leader. I'm like, isn't elected office public official? I mean, a public servant. It's like you should get in it to serve the community. It's one of the reasons that I early on pledged half my salary each year to Louisville nonprofits and charities. This is a statement. I mean, it's $120,000 salary, but the median wage in Kentucky is only 40,000. It's like I'm gonna exist with the people of the city, and I mean, to what extent that I lead, I'm gonna lead by example.
One thing that you mentioned, did you say the Louisville budget is a $1 billion?
Yeah, the last
Wow.
Fisher's last year was $1 billion. Yeah, and you
Yeah.
know what they've done with it? Nothing. They've done nothing with it. Roads are worse. I mean, like, uh, we took a hit from small businesses when the pandemic hit. I mean, I couldn't tell you
Mhm.
what they. Oh, actually, I could. I actually saw the budget, and I mean, yeah, bad allocation of money, and that's before you get into the nitty gritty. Like, what we need really is as a person that's like, hey, we're going to take the $1 billion and we're going to apply it to the city, not make sure that so and so gets paid or this contractor gets paid or this real estate agencies get paid. Like, it's ridiculous.
So what would be an example of something where you see the city currently investing budget and
So they,
where you would say, "Hey, I would do less of this and I would do more of that."
one of the things to just if we were going to switch around money, we went down the budget and there's a lot of agencies that are separated for no reason. One I think big one is that like just police in general is like you have the police department, you have the uh, fire department, you have emergency services. And I'm like, why wouldn't we just wrap all of them up into just emergency services? I mean, cut out through a lot of the bureaucracy. You could have people talk about sending social workers and stuff. Like, no, you just train a new breed of people that like are both trained because all firefighters are trained paramedics anyways. And then on some level you would have the fire department watching the police on one level, and if each call would be assessed individually, and then they could be handled by emergency service members and not one of these three departments. And right there, I think you could save. I mean, in this particular case, I think you would save at least 50 to 100 million in just the bureaucracy of three different departments.
And where would you what would be some things that you would do that the city isn't currently doing?
So my biggest thing is that I do believe that there has been nothing more detrimental to our country than the war on drugs, and like we can't sit and wait on Congress to do anything about it. So as mayor, I would direct the police department to no longer enforce nonviolent drug offenses. Like the fact that we have a huge crime rate and not, I mean, huge prison population, most of it is nonviolent drug offenses. It's insanity. And then it's like we know exactly why the war on drugs happened, and it was to politically prosecute people who were outspoken against the Vietnam War and black people and hippies, and we know this for a fact. And here we are, 30 years later, still doing it. And it's like even the Breonna Taylor thing that happened when Breonna Taylor was killed, it was all over nonviolent drugs. Like you're insane. It's like those are not crimes to me. You can battle it out, the opinions all day long, but the Constitution says, and we can talk a lot about the Constitution with Roe versus Wade. They say Roe versus Wade is enshrined, whatever. I think it's enshrined that the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness clearly means that any recreational substance abuse to make a law against that would be unconstitutional. So, and it's like I know I can't stop. I can't write legislation or whatever to marry, but like I'll get creative. I mean, I'll make it an absolute nightmare, a headache to do paperwork for anybody who's not violent. I mean, like But it's like also I wouldn't leave the police out of it. Like I'm not, they're not the enemy. I get that they're just a tool that's been used completely and utterly wrong. Like so, one of the things that police don't have is any type of training, like as far as like physical combat concerned. Like I would set up, at least 3 days a week, jiu-jitsu, judo, MMA, so that they felt confident enough to that they felt confident without the gun. Because if you ease the situation, ease the you know uh, situation for cops, I think it go a long way. Particularly when it's 2022. MMA is a huge sport. You never know what anybody knows. So I mean, I'm not justifying that fear, but like the idea that you don't know what anybody can do, and if you don't feel comfortable enough with yourself, then how can we trust you to be out there, protecting the streets? And that's a failure on the city's part because they don't mandate any type of training like that.
Colin, I noticed in your bio that you mentioned that you are the son of biracial parents. That one parent is black
Mhm.
and one is white. And I was curious. I'm sure everybody watching this is aware of the news of the Buffalo shooting, and I was just I'd be interested in getting your take on that event and what it means to us as a community and a country, and what you would is there anything you could do as a mayor to kind of bridge these divides?
I hope so. The thing is that it's just it mind boggling to me that still people still so fixated on race. Like being biracial means that like I never really saw race as singular. It's like my father was black, my mother's white. So let me tell you what, for example, affected me during the Black Lives Matter movement and everything. It's like I never saw that as like a white person killing a black person. I was like, no, that's an American government official killing an American civilian. Like, who cares what color they are? Like, skin color means as much as eye color does or hair color does. I mean, it's crazy. And but the shooting comes from a different part. It comes from like the desperation and a pure hatred of the system. And but at the same time, the cognitive dissonance of people saying you're in the greatest country ever. You're lucky. You got. I mean, in his case, you got white privilege. Like when these things just eat people up, and they use race like the elite do to divide us. Like they've been doing it since like the Civil War ended. As soon as the Civil War ended, they realized that poor whites and newly freed slaves had economic interests. They began to shove in the wedge, and here we are, like 130 years later, still the wedge still firmly in there. I'd hope that I could, I would try to, I would all my policies would be to give people hope in this like desperate, like hopeless situation is that we call America. It's and then it's like, what change can we really hope for? Like, what has Biden went on all this stuff, talked about FDR? What has he done? Like what? Like nothing. Like minimum wage, no. Which is crazy too. Like minimum wage stays the same, so they effectively pay people less and less each year. It's like it is such a compounded attack, and I mean, and then they throw race in there so that the working class have something to fight about. And then I mean, then you got mental illness, and because you know we don't care about health in this country, like that, people are left to just you know go postal on a school. Like it's it's sad, but it really is like just another one. Every time you hear like another shooting, like I mean, there's nothing we can really do about the guns. There's more guns than our people. I mean, other than like make the average person proficient and secure with their own firearms. I mean, I think the right. I mean, the Second Amendment says a healthy, well-regulated militia. You try to say it's the right to bear arms, but sure, it's right to bear arms. We should all be regulated, and we should be trained at like in militia style. And then maybe people would think twice before going on a hunting spree at fucking supermarket. I mean, it's
Yeah, you mentioned when I asked you about this Buffalo shooting, you went to things like minimum wage and working class people really struggling, and I do tend to agree with you that even some of the most kind of angry people out there often are they have a lot of anxiety about their future.
Mhm.
And I don't know anything about this shooter, but I'm guessing like he probably Didn't think he had a very bright future and much opportunity, and he was looking, this notion of all of his white supremacist stuff was meant to kind of compensate for his anger and his probably fear.
Right.
How do we like, and it doesn't seem like it's getting better. Like when you look at
It's
the discourse right now, like people are getting more and more dug in, and they really get a lot of joy from calling, the other half of the country like idiotic or evil. Um, is there anything that you could do if you were mayor of Louisville to help make that situation a little better? Or have you noticed it? Is it happening, in your neighborhood as well?
it is it has become so uh radioactive to just discourse, just any type of
Hmm.
discourse. And it is, I mean, you got to blame social media for shit. I mean, there's so many things. We have a very team-based mentality in America, and you know, one of the things that we have this argument, this talk that like we should, that disinformation or bad things that we should censor these type of things, and it's like no, that's like disinformation and ridiculous theories and all that stuff. It should be allowed to be said because the truth, or like factual, objective fact, will always stand true. But like we insulate ourselves in these media bubbles, and it's like as mayor of Louisville, one of the things that I would do to like I feel like would unite people is just help people out equally. Like some of the people that I'm running against may overcorrect what has been done in the red line and stuff like that, and then, only focus on a certain section of the working class
Hmm.
because of their skin color, and that's because they know that's not. It's only going to drive racial tensions further. You got to help them together. Like the working class is the working class, and this is a class thing, and it has been for years. The thing I consider racism to be believing yourself better than someone else because of your race. Like, and that's just silly. Um, I don't know if this kid believed he was superior so much as he was like he needed something for his violent outrage of just and because race is it's been so prevalent, he was fixated on that. So it's like the racial aspect of this shooting. I mean, could quite significantly be pushed by our media.
Yeah, I whenever I hear a lot of the folks in the modern sort of current day Republican Party um, kind of stoking the flames and firing up their crowds, and they say things like we're going to take our country back, like we're for real American values. Like we all know what they're saying.
Yeah,
We all know what they're
yeah,
getting at. And it kind of gives credence to some of these more extreme folks out there, the replacement theory people and all this kind of thing. Because then they're like, yeah, like even these elected people are saying this, something similar. And, it just feels like one of the things that's so disturbing is I think a lot of these politicians who traffic in this kind of hate and division, they they get elected, they win their primaries, they get their donations, they end up, writing books or whatever, and they live a good life. And meanwhile, they cause this division that's going to take, generations to heal. I mean, the fact that we had a crowd of people like invade the Capitol during a certification of an election, like how did we get here?
right. I mean, slowly and over time, like I said, it's going to take
Hmm.
generations. We got over here over a generation, and and it's also there's so much that's happened in just particularly. Are you a millennial? I'm a millennial. Like
I
there's
wish I were a millennial. I'm Gen X.
that my generation has seen just like the 9/11. You had when I was 19, they crashed the housing market and then bailed out the dudes that crashed it. And it's
Mhm.
like pandemic hit. I was put on unemployment for over a year. Prior to that, I didn't really care about I didn't really have an opinion on Bezos and them not paying taxes. Then they took up $1.8 trillion from people like me who pay taxes, and then gave it to the elite. I'm like, oh my lord. And
Mhm.
for me, it was that way. It was like, oh, everything, whatever. And then it was like, boom. And then when I really got started looking around, I was like, wait a minute, Obama, had super majority. Like he was filibuster proof, and we didn't get
Mhm.
Medicare for all. Like, and now there's also this like ethos of like in America, like we're the best, we're the best. Like perfection cannot be attained; it can only be strived for. And we've acted like we're perfect forever, so we've just been
Mhm.
stagnant as the rest of the countries have been moving along. So it's like we are literally regressing, and I guess the conservatives, that's their version of American values. But I mean, a lot of what the particular politicians do is what we have to stop. Like is performance. You know, like one thing I've told people is that I'm not going to sit up there and I'm not going to say what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what needs to be done. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. And like there should be a whole group of people that are like, this is what I'm going to do. And then they
Mhm.
stand on their words. Like if the fact that we just keep electing people that are clearly putting on a performance, they're clearly like don't care one way or the other. I mean, Republicans are even crazier because they they don't even run on anything. Like they just like culture war, like CRT, like that.
Mhm.
They don't have any policies. They don't even act like they're gonna make anybody's life better. The Democrats, they great at lip service, I guess. I mean, like eh, we've got to stop performances in it all. Like we need statesmen, not politicians. Like politicians think they're celebrities. They get into it for reasons. They think it's their right. They see themselves as above us. It's like no,
Mhm.
no, 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 no. So
So so let's look at some of the policies that you talked about on your website. Let me
yeah,
go to hold on, to the Hardin for Louisville. I'm so sorry, by the way. I say Louisville, but I'm guessing the correct pronunciation is Louisville.
it's it's I would it, technically it's Louisville, but like I'm just
Louisville.
not. Yeah, Louisville. Yeah, there you go. I actually heard a comedian. He was talking about that one time. He said I had 600 people yell back. It's Louisville. Like, yep, that's exactly it.
All right, so let's talk about what you want to do for Louisville.
Yeah,
Um, you've got a lot of policies here. You've got the economic policies, education, training, including like you talked about education for gun owners and things like that.
yeah.
Criminal community justice. There's no shortage of details on your page. So congrats to your team for putting this
Thank you.
together. What do you think is
It's all
resonate?
Zach.
Well done, Zach.
Hey, he's yeah.
What do you think, Colin, is are there specific things that when you talk to voters in Louisville that resonate the most, that they're like, yes, this is what we need? What's landing well with them?
So one of my urban acronyms, and really the kernel of this idea is to like take one problem and then use it to solve another problem. And it's like you have like nonviolent drug offenses and petty crimes that get people get locked up and left in jail, over not being able to pay bail and stuff, and it's overcrowded. So we need to divert these people, and then we have homeless people. And it's like, and on top of that, we have a housing crisis and a dilapidated neighborhoods all across, Louisville. We're going there and we're going to reinvigorate these neighborhoods and what houses can be saved to be renovated using like local like handymen, carpet carpet carpenters, you know anybody that can fix up houses and like crews and stuff. And then we'll double this with apprenticeships of people so that like we not only be reinstating these neighborhoods, but we would also be they would double as training apprenticeship for trades like electrician, a plumber, and then they can go on out and they can branch out and do more. And it's like we have all kinds of abandoned homes or things that are just being held by the banks or by real estate companies, and it's time for that to go. So one of the things to like take back when they would I was thinking of giving back to them because people talk all they want about affordable housing, but all that's doing is not giving you an asset to build wealth on. That's 100% what Americans build wealth on, or the average American build wealth on in this country is assets. And by just focusing on affordable housing, not only are you're building new stuff that when all we need to do is fix the old stuff, but you're also denying wealth again. And that's really what redlining was all about. It's just that like now they're just trying to redlining the entire working class.
You mentioned education a little bit and like people learning trades and things. What's your take on the current state of education in Louisville? How's it going over there?
Not great. I wouldn't. Honestly, I don't think we have a particularly um, effective curriculum throughout high school. Honestly, one of the things that we should do is, especially with so much pullback of people trying to make free college or whatever, like let's just move a lot of those courses to high school, like economics, civics. Like these are not courses that a 14-year-old cannot grasp. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like we need to move a lot of these, and it would probably like the amount of people that say Marxism and have never read a word of it blows me away. And I have said for the proletariat multiple times through this campaign, and not nobody's noticed a single thing. I guarantee you I can say proletariat on Fox News and nobody would notice. It's like none of you read anything about Marxism or socialism, and it's like they speak on terms and ideologies that they do not understand, and it's like you're gonna put them in college courses, which is like why are we paying thousands of dollars for simple concepts like political science, like something that people will use. So that's one of the first things after that, and I would have a track course to like local, state, and officials in all the schools. Like in every school, there'd be a program like that. Uh, you know, young statesmen of Kentucky, stuff like that in all the schools. To more incentivize and encourage the average person to get into politics.
You mentioned how a lot of people throw around terms like Marxist or socialist or communist and that kind of thing, and they may not be super familiar with the what those terms mean and how it should be taught so that people would understand the differences more. I mean, at for one, I agree with you, but then I also could easily see people getting triggered by that proposal saying, "Oh, you're trying to teach and indoctrinate kids about these things. We should ban all books that mention socialism. We should remove those things from the curriculum and just teach them, about what makes America great and its freedom and uh, pride, or whatever."
Well, it's that old saying that like, and this is my whole problem with how they teach history to begin with. It's that like those who do not know their history are doomed to repeat it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we cannot be the best country without understanding our own flaws because improvement is internal, and that's the thing. We got to quit acting like internally everything's fine. I mean, not unlike a lot of people that are addicted. Like right now, there's people who are suffering addiction in their head. Like I'm fine, and that's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like we are addicted to money. That's what it is. We're addicted to money, and you know, also our ethos of like uh, the individual comes before the tribe is insanity for one, but
Mm-hmm.
it also causes our leaders to be individually mandated, so they only take power and offices for themselves and not for the larger community as a whole.
So, Colin, when is the election and how's the campaign going, man?
So it's Tuesday. We have 48 hours. Um,
Wow.
and yeah, I got butterflies. To be honest with you. And the thing is that like local news, they have selected their winner from the day. So I've been snubbed more on news coverage, and you know, there was a couple of some places out in events I wasn't invited to just because it was like commerce event. I made sure to go to every one that I've been invited to. I even went to little ones that other candidates haven't shown up to. Cause it's like I'm one of y'all. Like I mean, I'm gonna be. There's no part of the world I'm gonna forget. But it's like if this election continues the tradition of money swaying heavily, then I think it'll be the end of this campaign cycle for me. Um, hopefully, uh, there's enough. Hopefully, I've inspired enough people to be like to not elect the same dude over because a couple of the people I'm running to they're just Fisher all over again, and
Mm-hmm.
Fisher's done nothing, and they're not doing nothing. But one of them, can take is a real estate developer. Like, he doesn't need to have the power to like cut slices
Mm-hmm.
of Louisville to his benefit. And it's funny too. None of them, because I called them all out, and like if any of them would pledge any of their salary, and none of well, that's not true. One of them, Skylar Gardick, he did. He was like, yeah, I'll do 6,000. And then Shamika Paris Wright was like, actually, like, I do like 20,000. I'm like, and everybody else was a flat no. And I'm like, you see where their commitments and priorities lie. We got a lot of good feedback, but they haven't released any type of polls on it, so we're all just blind.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna find out on Tuesday. I'll be honest with you, I will fall. I will need a day to myself, and then I'll be like, let's tackle this problem. Like,
Mm.
I I need a constant problem to solve. That's one of the appeals of working in a restaurant. Is that like it's a constant problem. And I didn't realize how much I needed that until like a year, 6 months on hiatus, and then I went back to work and like solving the problems. Like, oh, it's intellectually stimulating, and it's like we got a whole lot of problems as a country, as a city, as a state, and it's
Yeah.
like, let me fix
There,
it. Let me fix
there,
it.
there'd be no shortage of stimulation in
Yeah,
terms of problems to solve if you became mayor. Well, Colin, it's been great getting to know you, and I really I appreciate your policy stuff because you don't fall neatly into one category or another, and there's a certain kind of independent spirit to a lot of your policy proposals. So folks should check it out if they want to learn more about you at hardinforlouisville.com. I put a link to your listing on Of the People, which has more information about you there as well. Is there anything else you want to share with the folks watching before we wrap up?
uh, yeah. Just everybody out there, like we gotta get everybody involved because see the country's not lost yet. It's not because the founding fathers in their infinite wisdom, they put in one clause, and that's the fact that we can vote. And then and they can try to vote or restrict us all they want, but there's just way more of us than there are of them. And I mean, all it would take is one election cycle, one election cycle. And we could, I mean, think about it. If you could take 10, 11, 12, even independent seats, like, it doesn't matter, like, and disrupt the duopoly that's going on here, then we would have a voice, we'd have power. But we have to put electing the same type of people. We just have to. Like, Joe Biden has been even worse than Trump because he showed us that going back to normal is the last thing that we need to do. It's like we've got to go forward. We got to progress, and that's what I'm doing. Win or lose this, I'm gonna keep going because the problems that I used to critique America for and look down on America for, I started to interpret as my fault because I've been complacent and done it. So just let's not be complacent. Let's try. I mean, because even if we lose, let's go down fighting.
Well, Colin, keep working at it and keep up the fight. And who knows? Stranger things have happened.
Stranger things.
So
Right.
we'll stay tuned. And thanks for coming on the
Thanks so much,
show.
brother.
With that, we'll say
So much.
goodbye, nerds.
Bye, nerds.
I love it. All right. Well, that was Colin running for mayor. And the thing about candidates like Colin is they have a lot of headwinds, right? They are up against other candidates who have way more money and name recognition. Hold on, I think the camera's blurry. Uh-oh. And it's tough, man. It's tough. But if you look at his policy pages, he's got a lot of interesting stuff on there, including UBI. So that's obviously a soft spot for a lot of us. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was there is a primary that's happening in California. Let me see. It's the one with Shervin Azami and Erica Rhodes. And they're both running against this dude, I think Sherman or something, some incumbent. And I think their primary is coming up. So CA 32, yeah, CA 32 primary election. So that is going to be on June 7th, and it's going to be a pretty interesting one because I think in California the top two go to the general. So it could be Brad Sherman versus one of the challengers. And if you go by money, I know it's not a great way to do it, but there aren't a lot of polls for these local kind of congressional primaries. You've got Erica Rhodes and Shervin Azami both raising Erica almost 300K and Shervin 200K, and then some smaller campaigns. So you could have a situation where Brad has to run against either Erica or Shervin. And that's going to be decided on June. Oh, what was it? I think it's on. Where the hell was it? I just searched for the darn thing. June 7th. All right. So, what I would love to do is see if we could get anyone from running in that CA 32 Democratic primary to participate in a panel discussion on the Nerd Show. So specifically, we would invite, let's see, we would invite Shervin, Jason, Raji, and Erica to come and talk about why they should be the challenger to Sherman. I mean, I suppose we could invite Sherman, but I'm guessing Sherman would not want to come on because he probably thinks that, he doesn't want to give his competitors any oxygen. But let me know in the comments or in the chat if you would be interested in that, because whoever is the number 2 to Brad Sherman's going to go into the general, and that could be a really interesting race to watch. So I'll probably tweet about this, and hopefully either more than one of Shervin, Jason, Raji, and Erica will agree to hop on, and we'll have a panel discussion. We'll keep it cordial, but we'll talk about what's important to you and what do you think about the issues facing the district and the country, and it'll be an opportunity for people to get to know those candidates better. So I've tried to do this in the past. Haven't gotten more than one to agree. So I'm going to try again since the primary is coming up. But yeah, just wanted to kind of make folks aware that we'll give that a shot. I also want to thank the people who make this channel possible, and then highlight some other candidates for you that are getting a lot of approval votes on ofthepeople.us. But first, we will give a shout out to the Nerds for Humanity members. And if you are watching this on YouTube, you can become a member by just clicking the join link, and it starts at like $1.99 a month. So we will first start with our biggest supporter, who is a senior vice president, and that is Soldier One. So thank you, Soldier One, for everything you do, man. Appreciate you supporting the Nerds channel so that we can keep going and keep producing content and helping people get to know about policies and candidates that are going for it. At the VP level, we have Kristen Slevin, Bike, and Stephen Jones. So thank you, Kristen, Bike, and Stephen Jones. At the hardcore level, we have Gene, David, DK, Jackalego, Kirsch, Mr. History, Byron, Mona, Susan, Vaughn, Yang, Tony, Robert, Dean, Statner, Galessa, Jay Perrin, AH, Jay Bryan, Dana, Jason, Parth, and Daniel. And thank you to StreamYard for sponsoring this channel by letting us use StreamYard's live streaming tools for free. So thank you, StreamYard, for doing that for this channel. And then at the verified level, we have Lisa, Albert, Brandon, Peter, Arez, your mom and Sophia, Mike, Jadwiga, Doris, Emerald, Ben, Rasta, James, Emma, Hui, Elizabeth, Ira, Shoni, Jameson, Doctor, William, Karen, Monica, Arden, Semery, Mai, David, Brittany, Alexandra, Wana, Warren, Lucky, and Kevin. So thank you to all of you. And then let's look at our oldest and youngest nerds. The longest time supporting this channel are Lisa, Jean, Kristen, Albert, and Brandon. And our youngest nerds are Daniel, Steven, Kevin, and Lucky. So thank you all for making the Nerd Show possible. Now, let's highlight some people running for office that you may not know about. And some that you may know about, you can further support by giving them your approval vote with one click on their blue button. So let's go to ofthepeople.us and see who's trending right now. We have top 5 are Rose Yee, Stephen Houlihan, Amani Oakley, James Russ Russell, and Jay Chen. And our newest candidates that have listed recently are Corey Hepela, who is endorsed by the Forward Party, Colin, who is just on this show, Rose, Joaquin, and Brian Mannix. So, as a reminder of the people, it's an open platform. You can filter by policy and see who supports UBI. You can even put it near a zip code, and then we'll order it by who supports UBI that's near your zip code. You can say, no, I'm actually interested more in the Green New Deal, and you can see that list as well. So, although a lot of people who support Green New Deal, who support UBI, also support Green New Deal, interestingly enough. So yeah, I will want to say a quick thank you to the people who make Of the People possible, because Of the People costs money in terms of Amazon Web Services and some technology kind of hosting fees, licensing fees. So, in terms of who has been our biggest supporter, uh, Eric Sanchez, Tohir Tiliav, Elizabeth Owen, Tony Perella, Rockout, Iggy, Aaron Sarnat, Byram Hess, John Perino, Rob, Timothy Jordan, Jessica Ganoan, Trickle Up, Muhan Jang, Travis Klein, Austin Bagan, Mai Zamiris, and Dylan Shell. So thank you to the supporters of the people. If you found this live stream interesting, like it, share it, and if this is your first time watching, subscribe. With that, we'll say goodbye, nerds.